I've been on the Ramsey Solutions team now for over 9 years, which is shocking for, a millennial like me, because I'm seeing with millennials and Gen Z, they're moving to the next thing year after year, and they're
Right.
trying to climb the ladder faster and faster. They don't want to, part of it I understand, because they don't want to do what their parents did, which is work 30 years at a job they hate to get very little recognition, very little raise, all to have nothing to show for it at retirement. And so I understand that piece, but what do you say to those who you think maybe need a little more patience and go, you need to invest yourself in a place for a while and really plant some roots?
So, I think one really sad thing about the last 2 years, about this pandemic, is that it severed the link between effort and reward. During the pandemic, everyone got laid off at many businesses. The doors were shuttered, right? The best employees along with the worst employees. And so that was hugely demoralizing to the people who had been, who had never taken a day off, who'd been there at 6 a.m. and closed out at midnight. The people who worked really hard and who got treated the same way as the people who were slacking and, just got hired 2 days ago. I think that was extremely upsetting to people. And many people then developed the attitude, if they're just going to dump me the minute things, turn bad, why should I care? Why should I have any kind of attachment to my next job? Why should I make an investment? Since then, we've had a different situation, which is that in this very, very tight labor market, companies aren't wanting to fire anybody. We've talked to companies that have said, we used to have a 1 strike you're out policy if people were no-shows for work. Now it's more like a 10 strikes you're out policy. You basically can't get fired at many restaurants because they can't afford to cut you because they can't afford to replace you. And so that also is having a demoralizing effect where people are saying, I'm working really hard. This person next to me keeps, not being around or standing around talking instead of working, and they're getting the same paycheck as me, and there are going to be no consequences. So why should I care? And I think there's a huge challenge now for leaders to sort of reset the culture in their organizations and reestablish kind of a performance-based culture. And a culture where people feel valued and appreciated and rewarded for their hard work. It's going to be extremely challenging work. This is not something that is easy. A culture of complacency sets in, and it's very difficult to turn around. But that's sort of the leadership crisis I think many companies are in right now, and they need to do something about it fast.
And we're seeing that almost like the real estate market, where you have a seller's market and a buyer's market. It was an employer's market, and now it's turning into an employee market where employers have to bend over backwards to keep their team. We're seeing this trend of quiet quitting, where people are just kind of giving up and still clocking in. It's becoming like Office Space in a real way, where we're just going, I'm just not going to try, and they're not going to do anything about it. And that's a huge problem when you want people who care deeply, who do great work, who want to be there. And that's a huge challenge for our small business owners out there. What encouragement would you give to them as they battle against that?
So I think people love recognition. They love to feel appreciated. So start with small things, set little attainable goals for your employees and reward them for meeting those goals and hope that it leads to more good things. I mean, it's kind of almost like the challenge that the parents deal with every day. How do you encourage your kids to be sort of independently motivated to do good things? At first, they're not going to be independently motivated, and you have to provide some kind of external, sticks and carrots. So I would encourage companies to have high expectations and to sort of expect that their employees will meet those, and then to reward and recognize those who do.
Yeah, and that's a huge part of culture, which we talked about, comp and benefits and experience in the role. But when it comes to culture, that seems to be something that companies can't seem to wrap their heads around. And they're trying and they're going, hey, what if we did a Pizza Friday? That's going to be culture. What is the right way to build culture that is actually authentic and not just we checked off the culture box?
It's a very tough one, and for companies like ours at ZipRecruiter that have gone pretty much fully hybrid and remote at the corporate level, it's even more of a challenge. Right? We used to the physical workplace was the place where culture was. We have these really fun office buildings with their little putting lawns and their ping pong tables and their events and their video game rooms, and such fun places to be. Wonderful meals, breakfasts with chefs making pancakes. Now all that's basically gone because most people are working from home, and we've also hired people from everywhere now. So you couldn't even bring everyone into the office if you wanted to because they live all over the place. What do you do? Well, my advice is to take whatever risk you see, like the risk that people would become disconnected from one another. And you need to respond to every sort of negative action with a 5 times greater opposite reaction. Okay, so when COVID hit and suddenly we weren't having our office, get-togethers anymore, our CEO said, "Yikes! I usually do 4 all-hands meetings a year. I'm going to move that up and do a weekly all-hands meeting. And in that all-hands meeting, I'm going to give people way, way, way more visibility into the operations of the company. I'm going to show them every dashboard that I look at every morning when I wake up that shows performance. I'm going to show them the measures that motivate me. I'm going to talk to them about the questions that keep me up at night about the future of the company." And that's what he did. And suddenly you had the whole company from all over the country, and the world, the Israel team and the UK team and the Canada team, all in the same meetings at once. People were encouraged to participate in the chat, getting far more information about the company and feeling far more connected to the daily operations, to the goals, to the values, to the mission. And so I think often if you identify a risk, the concern that there's not going to be enough culture, not going to be enough glue to bind people together, you should really sit with that problem for a while and think, what would I do if I wanted this to be the most connected company on the planet? What would I do if I wanted people to know everything, to feel like they're all on the same page, and then do that, whether it's lots of events, whether it's even just creating voluntary things on the weekends, like telling everyone, hey, there's this game happening, and we're going to be buying a block of tickets, and you can contribute if you want, and we'd love to see employees and their families come to the football game this weekend. Just small things like that can be so hugely, hugely beneficial. And then encourage people to share their pictures afterwards. That's one small example we just recently tried, and it was such fun. If you're a little creative about it, I think you can go really far.
Oh, absolutely. And our EntreLeadership team is great at that. They're always meeting regularly, having fun together, celebrating together. And our entire staff here at Ramsey Solutions, we meet every single week, all 1,100 of us in the same room somehow. It's getting tight. And just to communicate and celebrate and share what's going on with the company and share the hard things and share the wins. And that really is a powerful way to build culture that anyone can do regardless of how much money you have, how big your team is. So great reminders there.
Exactly.